drag racing is the most popular form of racing in America, not named NASCAR. And I can promise you, if you ask 10 people to race in America, their first thought is going to be getting even with each other and flooring it and see who has the big sausage. Now, but for if some reason, if you don't know what drag racing is and you clicked on this video, let me explain. Drag racing is the most American thing ever. Essentially, two people with cars get side by side as even as possible. Then they press the gas to see if they can get ahead of the other guy. The professionalism of these drag races varies depending on whether you're just racing the jack-o'-lantern who tried to pass you on the 2-lane road or if you're actually on a drag strip. Now, track racing is the less popular form of racing, and honestly, if you mention track racing to your average citizen, they will probably think of NASCAR, to be honest. Maybe a couple of them might think Formula 1. Anyways, but track racing is fairly self-explanatory. You take your car to a track to see who can either A, drive around the track in the fastest time, or B, figure out who can do a lap or 3 around the track and who can cross the line first. So obviously here in America, we love to build cars and we love to boast about the things that we built. So when you're building a car to drive in a straight line, the specs and upgrades you do to that car will be different than when you're building the car to run around the track where you have to turn and accelerate repeatedly. So let's kick this off. Not gonna lie, I wanted to make a debate out of this, but I honestly can't think of one. So I'm just gonna present the information I found about the specs of these two builds, and you can formulate your own opinion about it. We're gonna start with drag specs. So cars that I saw recommended, well, starter cars I saw recommended for drag cars were Mustangs, BMWs, Firebirds, and Camaros.
You can't go wrong with a Fox body or SN95 Ford Mustang or a 4th gen F-body Camaro. This Camaro we found for $4,200. It already has a nitro setup.
Not surprising to see muscle cars. I mean, I did mention that drag racing is the most American thing ever. But anyways, the specs of a drag car, while not mentioned I still looked it up. Longer wheelbases are recommended for drag racing. Now, do every drag racing car have long wheelbases? No. But if you look at like the hot rod drag cars, I realized that they have really long wheelbases. Anyways, if you don't know what wheelbase is simply the distance between the middle of your front tire to the middle of the back, to the middle of your rear tire. That's essentially what wheelbases are. Now, longer wheelbases improve stability at higher speeds and is more of a smoother ride when you have that. Obviously, no matter how you drive your car, you want it to be stable, but the longer wheelbase will help your car drive in a straight line when flooring it. Anytime your car veers off the line from point A to point B, you're losing valuable milliseconds, so the longer wheelbase, keeping it stable, helps that a lot. This was left out of the build videos I saw, so I decided to throw this in because I felt like it was helpful. Now I'm going to transition to me when I was researching these topics, and I'm basically going to summarize what these sites and videos say. Alright, what's up, Gabe? Alright, so I'm basically just going to summarize this real quick. What this site says about building a drag car. Essentially what it says is which car should you build? Probably the car that you're already driving. But if you're not gonna build, if you're gonna build a different car, a project car, you want a car that's really light. It says it somewhere in here. Is to just try to find the lightest car possible. And then it recommends like old Mustangs. Yeah, Fox body Mustang, 05 Mustang. Here it is. We suggest the lightest car with the most possible aftermarket, stuff. And then it says how fast do you really want to go. Everybody, something. Anyways, but basically the things they say about building a drag car is, one, you want sticky tires. You need grip to be able to move your car. 2, you need grip to be able to use that horsepower, because you know how everybody has like 1,000 horsepower this, 800 horsepower that. Well, if you have 1,000 horsepower this and that and your tires aren't good, you're basically just going to be spinning your tires the whole time, because it's not going to be able to actually lay it down and move. Play Forza, get a car with 1,000 horsepower and don't upgrade the tires and turn traction control off. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Then it says add performance suspension. Now this I would have never guessed, but yeah, the suspension helps add traction. And then they talk about this thing called wheel hop. Here it is. Yep. All right, so you will not be optimal at the drag strip or just in general handling all that power, so you need a better suspension. And you may even have wheel hop. Now me, I've never heard of wheel hop, so I'm assuming if you have as much car knowledge as me, which is basically just everything they tell you in the video games, you probably don't know what the hell wheel hop is. So I looked it up, and wheel hop is the result of your wheel moving more freely than it should, and it doesn't really stay. It's when your wheel doesn't stay on the ground. So I just assumed it's when your wheel starts popping up and down, which makes you lose grip. So I went to go find some videos of it, and this isn't it. Here it is. This is a video of wheel hop, and you can probably immediately tell why it's really, really bad. Yeah, that's not something you want happening. So upgrade your suspension, get really good tires. Yeah, make sure you upgrade your suspension so you can avoid wheel hop, because if you get all that power and stuff, you want to be able to floor it and stay on the ground and be stable, because yeah, it's about, you know, you want to be safe when you're going fast. The next thing they say is basically just to build your engine, whether you rebuild it, buy a new one, swap one, whether you rebuild your engine, add new things to it, or just swap a whole another engine into it. That's pretty much what it's saying. Here it says to add more power to your car, the engine that you have. Now me, I didn't really understand this. It talks about switching your camshaft, which if you saw the Forza video that I made about the upgrades in Forza really real. Alright gang, another site, and it basically said the same thing as the last one, so I'm just gonna roll with the consensus here. What they said is when you're building a drag car, what you want to do is find something with a bulletproof engine. Now when they say this, they don't mean they want you to find an engine that can literally take a round from an AR-15 or take a round from a Glock. What they mean is an engine that can get beat up a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Because not every engine is built for you to freaking rev it and just be wham bam 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 bouncing off the rev limiter, doing all that crazy stuff with. So they're basically just saying get you a nice strong sturdy engine to deal with all the shenanigans. Then the next thing they want you to do is they want you to strip that mother fluffer down and build it back up. Now basically what they're saying here is just to build your engine, you know, add everything you want to it. Well, yeah, you know, rebuild it, make it more sturdy, even more sturdy than it already is, because it's quote unquote bulletproof. And then they're saying get some aftermarket parts. Now actually, before I give you, well, I'm gonna give you what I think aftermarket parts are. Well, what they essentially are is basically aftermarket parts are essentially just things that didn't come with the car. So if you buy a naturally aspirated car, which means it doesn't have what you call it, let's look it up. Okay, yep, I was right. Okay, they're replacement parts not made by the original equipment manufacturer. Woo wop woo wop. So if you get a Ford and you throw a turbocharger in it and it doesn't come from Ford, that's an aftermarket part. So yeah, that's essentially what this says. If people, yeah, that's basically saying if everybody has a supercharger and they're like, yeah, you obviously should get a supercharger, then they're saying it's obvious for a reason, because you need it. And go forced or go home, it's just a slogan for saying maximize your engine, throw as much power as it can handle. And yeah, you know me, as of right now, not a fan of nitrous, and the rest of this is just hardcore, you know, hardcore drag stuff like pulling the AC and power steering out and all that, because A, it's added weight, and two, it doesn't help with speed. But I mean, if you just want to have, you know, the fastest Mustang in your city, you're not gonna strip your AC out, because I mean, you drive the car to work or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So alright gang, another day, still doing some research. So I'm looking up the suspension for drag and track cars. So I'm basically just gonna summarize these 2 pages for you real quick. Alright, so with drag race suspension, actually kind of shocked me. What they said is that you actually want to run, yeah, lightest front spring rate as possible, and you also want to like, oh okay, I misread that. I thought it said you want to soften it. I might need to read through this again, but you want to run the lightest front spring as possible, basically so the car does this. And because when you drive your car, well, when you hit the gas, your car lifts a little bit. You've probably noticed it if you ever floored it. So basically what it wants you to do is it wants you to light it or soften it, or yeah, I'm pretty sure it says soften, but I probably mistake lighting for, okay, here it is. It says right house, so softer rate makes it easier to rise during acceleration. Stiffer makes it harder. Yada yada yada. We use a lot of spring. Yeah. Okay. So basically, it's saying that you want it to, you know, light as possible, to put as much weight on those back tires as possible. So when you're ready, one, to help with grip. It's kind of like how spoilers work with the downforce. You want to do that, and also reducing wheel hop, because all that weight on the back tires, I assume, is going to keep the tire from jumping around and doing what we saw in the previous clip. If I'm good in editing, I'll play the clip right here so you can actually remember what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's basically all it says about suspension here. Is you're basically just going to do everything you can to your, so after that, essentially what you want is to build a nice powerful engine, or just add things to make the engine you have now more powerful. Then getting better tires and better suspension to handle all that power you just threw into your engine. And you also want to be as light as humanly possible, but to have that power to weight ratio. But if you're just a casual street racer, well, that's essentially what street racing is in America. If you're just a street racer, you don't really have to worry about weight reduction. Just add more power to your engine. But if you want to take it to like a track, you're gonna have to do a little bit of weight reduction if you want to maximize your drag car. Now for track cars. Track cars require, from a casual standpoint, way more equipment and upgrades if you want to go super try hard with it. And well, I found this site and it basically says everything that needs to be said about track cars at this point in time. Last minute objection, I forgot to mention shorter wheelbases are better for track. Shorter wheelbase makes the car more agile and more snappy, hence why when I introduced the recommended cars, which I also forgot to introduce in the beginning of this, introducing track cars, I said introduce like 5 times in that one freaking sentence. You'll notice most of them are smaller, but the recommended cars, starter cars for track racing, or the Toyota MR2. Haven't seen that car or heard of that car in a while. Miatas, Porsche 944s, and hatchbacks, and which surprised me. So now let's play me reviewing the specs of track cars. This, that, and the third. So now let's go to track. So this one has a lot of information, but we're gonna go to the things that apply to the video. So looking at the track suspension, it was not as easy. First thing first, they kicked it off with ride height. Now in the forums I've seen about drag racing, they never really talked about the height of your vehicle. I don't know if it matters that much. Maybe, I don't know. Aerodynamic, I don't know. They never talked about it, so I'm not going to talk about it. I might look it up and try to see if they say anything about ride height, but as of right now, through the research I've done, all the drag racing sites that I've been to have not mentioned a lick about your ride height. It just, you know, whatever. So basically they're saying you want your car to be as low as possible. Yeah, the lower the better. Lower is better in almost all track situations, but they want you to make sure that, one, you don't want to completely slam your car, because if you add aerodynamics, like the spoiler here, is this a Lotus? This is a Lotus Elise. I hope I said that right, otherwise people are gonna roast me. But yeah, your spoiler and the downforce created from the wind hitting your car is gonna it's gonna push your car down a little bit, so you don't want to completely bottom it out, because once those forces start acting, then you're gonna be scraping the ground. Not good. Don't want that to happen to your car. All right, so that's basically what this says, is make sure that when you're lowering your car as much as possible, you keep in mind that there are other forces that lower your car. And also, like, you can either lower your car a lot and then stiffen your springs so that way they don't move as much, or you can just lower it and then let it be able to, you know, up and down with the forces or whatever. It's basically saying make it as low as possible and balance it out. Corner balancing, this is all about weight distribution. I'm not going to get into that because I really don't understand it that much and how you can you know, how this affects, but corner balancing is a thing, keeping your car stable through the corners, this, that, and the third. but I'm just gonna cross this out and not look into it because I'm not gonna understand that until I know more about cars. But here's the thing that I was gonna research: roll bars. Okay, so in a video I watched or reacted to, you might see the clip, you might not. Roll bars, I've seen that people put this in their track cars and stuff. This is an upgrade in Forza. A lot of people use it. I always upgrade roll bars, but I never really understood what they do. I mean, well, they are self-explanatory, but yeah, roll bars are anti-sway bars that reduce your chassis roll. So if you ever took a sharp turn in your car, you ever felt like your car was, you know, doing this, like kind of leaning, so this reduces that, or it makes it not happen. So basically what this is saying, like, roll bars affect your steering. It can affect your oversteer and understeer. If you don't know what over and understeer is, quick 10-second explanation. Let's say this is a corner, all right, and my finger is your car. Oversteer is when your car turns too aggressively, so it's going to turn too hard into the corner. Understeer is what we all hate, especially in video games, is when the car just won't turn and it keeps taking like wide. So oversteer is really sharp, this, that, and the third, which, I mean, could be bad. You know what, I'll make a video on it, because to me, I try to get as much oversteer as possible. Well, not too much, but enough to where I control it, because I'd rather turn too hard than not be able to turn at all. So yeah, oversteer, super sharp. Understeer is wide as hell, and you don't like that. So basically what they say here, it should be somewhere at the end, is understeer means your front are getting enough grip, so you should soften, you soften the front to reduce understeer, and vice versa. So you would soften to reduce understeer, and then soften the front to reduce understeer, and then you would soften the rear to reduce oversteer. Oh, here we go. Yep, I remember what it said. Okay, so basically with the springs, this also kind of shocked me. Not really, sort of. I mean, I wasn't expecting to hear it, but I'm not surprised to hear it. They're saying that you want your springs to be as soft as possible to improve grip and keep your car. Okay, yeah, they want your springs to be as soft as possible. It improves grip, allegedly. It keeps your tires on the ground, but they say you don't want to have your springs so soft that your car gets buried into the track on straights due to aerodynamic overloads. That's basically car talk for saying when you're going on a straight, a lot of wind is going to be hitting your car. It's going to push your car down. So when your car gets pushed down, you don't want to be, you know, scraping the ground on the straightaways. But so yeah, they're saying, you know, same thing that they said about what did they say? Ride height is basically balance it out to where you can shocks. Now I'm not gonna lie, before I saw this, I thought the shocks were this little twirly. Well, yeah, I thought the shock was the spring. You know, I thought it was just another term for the string, but turns out it's this little thing right here. So yeah, shock absorbers are the unsung heroes. Basically what these do is they basically take the brunt of all the forces that are going into your car. If you stiffen your front shock, you get more grip in the rear, and vice versa. If you stiffen the rear, you get more grip in the front. So honestly, if you're running, well, I think every car has shocks, so I'm assuming that with your drag car, you would want to stiffen the front almost as much as possible. I don't know the real effects of that, so you can get a lot of grip in the rear. Just me, if you're going to try hard with the drags, that's what it sounds like to me. But yeah, that's what it is. If you stiffen the front, you get more grip in the back. If you stiffen the bike, you get more grip in the front, and shocks help, you know, the brunt of all that. I skipped reading camber because I'm going to do my own video on that. I don't know what caster is, so this is basically all the super try hard, you know, stuff you can do to make your car better on a track. We're not looking into that stuff because yeah, I mean, it's not that deep yet. It's not that deep, and I didn't want to give myself a headache. So yeah, that's me summarizing these two sites on drag suspension and track suspension. Yeah, let's look into another thing I can add into this video. Alright, after all of this, I decided to make a quick and simple compare and contrast chart thingy. On the left, you see the drag build stuff. On the right you see the track build, and in the middle is the things that they have in common. The drag build, you're probably going to want a longer wheelbase. While it's not something you really need, it would be better to have a car with a longer wheelbase. They want light and stiff suspension, more of an emphasis on power, and it's relatively simple to build if you don't count building an engine. When it comes to the track build, you want a short or a mid wheelbase. You want soft suspension, apparently as soft as humanly possible, and emphasis on, I use maneuvering because you want to be able to get your car to turn, and it's basically you want to maintain speed through corners and this, that, and the third, and not flip your car. And then what they have in common is they both need a lot of traction. They both emphasize accelerating as quickly as possible, and they both like weight reduction. And yeah, that's pretty much all I found. I ended up cutting out me going into crazy detail in the video, but for future reference, if you want me to leave in the parts where I go into super detail, it'll make the videos longer. But you know, but yeah, this, that, and the third. It's your Okage. Hit that subscribe, help me grow, and I'm out.